Morning, gentlemen. We got up to Ayin Zion in the Yalkut Biurim, and let's just review the last paragraph on Ayin Vav, which is the insight of Rabbi Chana. And we're talking about the possibility of adding another erva to the list of 15, and that would be HS Ish. How would that be possible? We discussed the case where someone married a woman, Chutzli Ploni, which means that as far as that Ploni is concerned, he can marry her and she's not an HS Ish. So that person went ahead and married her, and he dies and leaves his wife's Yibum to his brother. But this woman, in addition to being Eishes Ach, is also Eishes Ish. Because the original Makadesh, we call Ruvain, was Makadesh her, and he never divorced her, he never died or anything, so he's alive and well. She's an Eishes Ish to Ruvain. She's also an Eishes Ish to Shimon, his older brother, or his younger brother, doesn't matter, because Ruvain's Kedusha was Chutz Shimon. So Shimon had the right to marry her. So now the status of this woman is a twofold status. Vis-a-vis Ruvain, she now has the status of an Erev of Eishes Ish. But as far as Shimon is concerned, she's Eishes Ach. Because if, let's say, Levi wants to be Yabem, the wife of Shimon, then the fact that she is the wife of Shimon, and that's Eishes Ach, but that's exactly what the Torah was makir in Yibum. But the Torah would not be makir in this case because she's also Eishes Reuben, which makes her an Eishes Ish. And that would mean, therefore, that if this woman who is married to both Reuben and Shimon has a tzara, meaning that Shimon has another wife, then that tzara becomes a tzara's erva. And when the Mishnah lists all the arayos which pater up the tzara, it should have added Eishes Ish. So this is a presentation of Tosfos, and Tosfos says that Eishes Ish would not pater up the tzara, and that's why it's not included in the list in the Mishnah. So Rabbi wants to understand why Eishes Ish would not pater up the tzara, which would mean that if Shimon has another wife, and after Shimon's death, that wife, together with the Eishes Ish of Reuven, falls to Levi, Levi could be the Yabem, Shimon's other wife. He says the following, and now he is activating the principle of Ein Isur Chalal Isur. And he says the following, Kol Isha she'ein ha'ach ha'meis, right, in this case Shimon, Osra b'chayav al achiv Isur Eishes Ach, is such a case has no nefila for you. Again, let's understand. If when Shimon marries this woman, the marriage would not generate an erev of Eishes Ach vis-a-vis Levi, then Shimon's death would not create a nefila for Yibum at all. Nefila for Yibum applies if and only if the marriage to this Yevamot generated an erev of Eishes Ach. In our case, it's impossible for Shimon's marriage to create an erev of Eishes Ach because she's already asura b'toras Eishes Ish insofar as she's married to Reuven. So there's no Eishes Ach because Ein Isur Chalal Isur, and if there's no Eishes Ach, then there's no nefila liyibum. And this he bases on a statement of Rava to explain the Shita of Beit Shammai in the case of Achos Isha. What does Beit Shammai say? Im kodem nesra yavam al yavam bi isra achos isha. So let's say that Levi the Yavam married Rachel, the sister of Leah, before Shimon married Leah. So when Shimon marries Leah, his Ashes Ach Erva does not generate an erva because she's already the wife of his sister. And since Leah is the wife of Ashes Levi, Rachel, when Shimon marries Leah, he does not generate an erva of Ashes Achit because Leah is already prohibited to Levi under the category of Achos Ishta, because Leah is the sister of his wife Rachel. And Rav explains that in such a case, there's no p'tur of Itzara. Meaning, if Shimon is married not only to Leah, the sister of Levi's wife Rachel, but Shimon is also married to Rivka, Rivka will fall for Yibam to Levi. Why? Because Leah does not have any nefila for Yibum because Leah was never asura to Levi b'toras Eishesach. Do we have it? It could be I'm talking to the wall here. I don't know. You have to tell me. I tried to be as as clear as I could, but this is real heavy bumps. I'm proud of myself that I'm even able to talk about this. It's so complicated.
I thought the Sarah is not.
Shimon died without any children. He was married to Rivka. Why should Rivka fall to Levi? The only answer is because she's a tzar of an Erva. Which Erva? And that's the Chiddush of Beit Shammai. According to Rava, it's got to be the Erev of Eishus Ach. In this case, there is no Erev of Eishus Ach. There's only an Erev of Achos Ishto. And Achos Ishto could only be a poter of an Erva if there's at least an afila for Yibum through the Erva of Eishus Ach. But if Eishus Ach never got off the ground, it couldn't have been generated to begin with because at that point, Leah was already Achos Ishto of Levi, and there's no Eishus Ach, and if there's no Eishus Ach, then if that in the absence of that erva, there's no Nefilim for evil. If there's no Nefilim for evil vis-a-vis Leah, then Rivka falls for evil, and there's no P'tur in the Tzara. This is Rabbi Khan. And we wrapped it up here yesterday with the last 3 lines on page Ayin Vav. V'cheinu b'eishes ish, ve'achu k'tar nesra yivama alav mishum kedushay rishon. So this woman, I think yesterday we called her Sarah, if I remember correctly, right? This woman, Sarah, was married to Reuven and still remains married to Reuven. Shimon is allowed to marry Sarah. It's the greatest paradox on earth. But that's called chutz. That's called the t'nai of chutz mishimon. That erva relationship between Levi and Sarah was already fixed in stone before Shimon married Sarah, by virtue of the fact that Sarah is married to Reuven. So that the erva of Eishus Ach, when Shimon marries Sarah, can never emerge. It's a non-entity because the groundwork has already been taken up. There's no extra room here. The Ein Kiddushay Ech Achiv Osrim Osa Olav. When do we set up Yibum? When the marriage to this woman by the other brother, the late brother, generated some sort of an Isser Erva. That's the paradox of it. It's the Erva that creates the mitzvah of Yibum. It's mind-boggling. I would say, look, this is the wife of Shimon. Oh, thank you so much. And that should be enough to generate Yibum. No. It's not enough to testify, well, this woman, Sarah, was married to your brother Shimon who never passed away. That's not enough. You have to create an earlier status, an earlier situation in which when Shimon married Sarah, he created an erva. What is that erva? That's called Eishes Ach. But in this case, the erva is a done deal. She's an Eishes Ish by virtue of Ruvain's marriage. And that takes us to the top of Daf Ayin Tzad. Okay then? Let me just take care of one thing here. This may make a little noise, but I just want to, because I bothered someone and now these brilliant computer whizzes were able to figure out how to get this. Wait. What's going on over here? Not good. Please. Yeah, I apologize. Just
An area where insurance. But it's notices are great. There's no exit. Then we explore.
cancel the order because they messed up a little bit here. Okay. El Lefizek Hiksha. So now Rabbi Chanezeski became Akati Mishkachas Ervas Eishes Shetiftar Tzaros Miyivu Kigon Shekidsha Ruvain Chutz Miploni Shuhu Nachri Lo. Okay, Achakach Kidsha Nachri. The Achakach Mace Ruvain below Banin. Enough of Nate Shimon Liyibu. Sharibofin said, Vade Mokum Mitzvah. Let's just see what happened here. Ruvain was Makadesh Sarah Lomazagin, Chutz Miploni. Now this Ploni marries her. And then Ruvain dies and she falls to Yibum to Shimon. Let's just think what happens. Ruvain dies. Now she's an Eishes Ach of Ruvain. And as opposed to the previous case, where the Yavam himself was marrying an Eishes Ish, here it's the Baal of this Isha, who himself is the Ach that dies. So when he marries her, then vis-a-vis his surviving Ach, he's creating an Erev of Eishes Ach. Correct. Now wait a second. So why would she not pater up her sorrow? We're talking about what? Eishes Ish. What happened? The Nochri married her. It was Chutzvi Nochri. And he's still alive. And he is still alive. And therefore, there is Yibum, and the Tzara should be part. Wow. He basically, what Rabbi Chana is pointing out is that, you just have to change the screws a little bit. You started with a system where the Chutz Ploni, the Ploni was the brother that eventually would die Forget about that. The Ploni is enough. Reuven was Makadish in such a way that Shimon, that the Nachri could also Makadish her. Now, when Shimon marries her, she becomes an Ashes Ach vis-a-vis the next brother. Well, I guess we could call him Shimon in this case. We don't even have to get to Lev. So as far as Shimon is concerned, she is Ashes Achiv. She should fall for Yibum. Now, in addition to that, she's Ashes Ish. Wait, let me just understand something. Right, and here the Ashes Ach came first, and the Ashes Ish came second. So you can't apply the principle of Ein Iser Chalalis. Vitirates. Well, that's interesting. Everybody calls Manche Baila Kaim of Al Itzer Machmas Nochri. Oh, Fisha